Premiership Rugby round number 1 for 2021-2022. Watched a few games, watched some highlights. Try to keep it fairly quick, folks, but it was an interesting round. Most of the home teams won, apart from the first and the last game. So the Friday and the Sunday games went the other way. But anyway, I'll go through them quickly. You guys who watch some of the other games in full can let me know, because I've watched Bristol's game, Leicester's game, and Newcastle's game more or less in full. I've had the kids running around the house and I didn't make them go to their room while I sat and watched kind of 6 hours of rugby, so I may have been distracted at times. But anyway, it was a pretty fun weekend of rugby, and you guys can let me know your thoughts on how things went. Bristol and Saracens, the first one, can I just say, a loud crowd. Quite a loud crowd, and that's true of many of these games. Actually, it was really great to see crowds back in the Premiership. A lot of kicking though early in this game, a lot of kicking. Like the total kick numbers in this game was astronomical. Like people talk about the Springboks kicking a lot, but they didn't have nothing on these guys. 40 kicks by Bristol, 46 by Saracens. That's an astronomical amount, man. That's a lot. I guess the 50-22 thing saw people trying to attempt that quite a lot. But yeah, I've seen a little bit of feedback about the game saying people are distraught having Saracens back in the Premiership because they play boring. They play brutal, man. I wasn't bored by them, but I was certainly kind of watching them just slowly drive the life out of Bristol, man. Bristol kept tryless in this one and scoreless in the second half. It was kind of trading penalties early. Pietau still looked pretty dangerous. But it was 9-0 at half-time. Saracens' maul and scrum, I thought, were looking pretty dangerous. Some of the Bristol ones were kind of silly, like a silly offside one from a high ball. They would go like 18 phases and knock it on with Bristol. They were kind of a wee bit frustrating to watch that. There was one TMO check for foul play on Woolcroft, but it was all good. It kind of slowed the game down a little bit. Bristol went 10 phases at one point. Sheedy would lose the ball. So, yeah, probably pretty frustrating, I think, if you're a Bristol fan, that one. And what's scary is Saracens had a heap of guys out of that game. I know Bristol did as well. But, man, Saracens missing some proper big guns and still managed to get a 26-9 victory. The Lewington try from Lazowski's grubber was pretty much fantastic, and that's when I wrote a game over. They did miss that conversion. But, Lazowski got man of the match. Pretty brutal. The last little moment of the game, Randall had a line break on like 78 minutes and Bristol ended up knocking it on. I kind of wrote that's the story of the game for the Bristol guys. But yeah, like I said, a lot of kicking, not so much ball from hand. Like clean breaks was 3-1, which is pretty low. Penalties conceded 13-7, so almost double for Bristol. That's again another one that was a little bit costly. Some of those at the scrum. Knock-ons 10-3 again to Bristol. So they're kind of the masters of their own demise in some ways. Pietau finishes with 114 run meters and 10 defenders beaten, which individually is a phenomenal effort, but the team had 27 defenders beaten, so kind of shows you what a man mountain he is. Lazowski, like I mentioned, man of the match. Got a try assist, had 18 out of 19 tackles, so proper good stuff. Saracens are 5th with the 4 points on the board. They got the bye next week as well, so that's kind of an awkward time to have a bye actually. But they've got the bye, and Bristol are dead last. They are away to Wasps, who are coming off the bye themselves, so they may be a little bit sharper. We will have to kind of wait and see. But yeah, that was the first one, which I did watch. The next one, which was Leicester against Exeter. And believe it or not, in the Super Brew pool, you can join in. You'll be a week behind. But in the Super Brew pool, which is the predictions game, I picked every single one of these results. People have been talking Leicester up to me prior to the start of the season. And I bought into this, that Leicester were going to come good. And man, 34 points to 19 over Exeter. That's a pretty good result, man. Tries to Stewart, Potter, Scott, and 2 to Dolly for Exeter. 1 to Armand, a penalty try, and 1 to Hidalgo Klein at the death. Kind of a bit of a consolation one. But Stewart was pretty dangerous. I was really impressed by him. Really good in the air as well. Such a safe pair of hands. That's really refreshing to see. I've seen a lot of high balls in a lot of rugby recently, and a lot of guys struggling under it. There's something really satisfying about seeing someone who is just very confident and capable of taking high balls. So, yeah, really impressed with him. The initial try was off the back of a Leicester scrum, some good hands. Austin Healy was commentating that game. I found he just grinds my gears, eh? There's just something about him. He's just such an arrogant sod, isn't he? Yeah, I don't know what it is about him. I think, yeah, it's just the arrogance. Don't like him. Any game he's commentating, I know he gives good insights, just his attitude is frustratingly bad. But Ndolo was huge in this game. Big defenders beaten. He flattened a few people. Good line breaks. He's the one who kind of set up Harry Potter's try. But yeah, Exeter, they had kind of, I guess, typical tries. I mean, what was the first one through Armand one? That one was kind of close range. The penalty try was them kind of knocking on the door and Leicester conceding penalties on their own line. Ndolo did put a try saver on Slade at one point, which was pretty good. Exeter's scrum kind of got better as the game went on, I thought. Eventually, it was Wells. I think they got yellow carded when they got the penalty try, did Exeter. So, yeah, too many penalties in the red zone. But yeah, a couple of good, impressive tries for Dolly, man. Like, more tries against Exeter are always kind of a bit of gold. So, yeah, that was pretty well done. I thought, George Ford ran the game pretty well. And they just looked comfortable, which was, yeah, I mean, I haven't followed the Premiership a heck of a lot, but I know Leicester haven't been kind of in the best of times recently. But, man, that was a really impressive performance. So, like I mentioned, consolation try at the end. The ref also had a bit of a funny attitude. One time, he was kind of standing in the way, as Healy did point out. And he berated the guy who threw it into him, saying, "I'm the guy dressed in blue," as if to say, "You shouldn't throw the ball into me." But the ref does need to get out of the way. So, yeah, weird game in that regard with the ref. But, man, like I mentioned, Stewart impressive, Ndolo impressive. The fullback for Exeter, I think I've seen him before, is it Hodge? He looked pretty solid as well, man. He had a bunch of, 4 defenders beaten, 130-odd run meters. So, yeah, but the Leicester guys kind of the stars of the show there. Leicester are in first. They're away to Gloucester next. And Exeter in 12th, home to Northampton next week. So who would have thought Bristol and Exeter to be the bottom two after one round? But I guess one round is just that. It's just one round. The next one, I've only seen the highlights of Northampton and Gloucester, which is kind of a pity because it seemed like a hell of a game. Like, Northampton seemed like a pretty entertaining team, eh? I guess there's bit of a Hurricanes connection from Super Rugby. Have they always been like this? Do they always throw the ball around this crazily? Like, tries to Furbank, Grayson, Elterak, and Wood. 3 to Gloucester, Thorley, Reid, and May. There were honestly some pretty good tries in this game. It seemed, from like the 6 or 7 minutes of highlights I've seen, pretty entertaining. Furbank looked really dangerous with his line breaks. Singleton's yellow card seemed to be a bit of a silly, cynical one. Was a deliberate knock on, right? Grayson's try were at bloody good hands. Yeah. That being said, like, Johnny May's one was also pretty good. And one of the Northampton guys got yellow carded for kind of smashing into him on the ground after he'd already scored, which is a bit silly. I think it was, was it Grayson? Yeah, so, but yeah, the offloads and stuff were crazy. Offloads 16 by Northampton. Usually you'd see teams in the single digits, even like the All Blacks, who got a reputation for chucking the ball around quite a lot. Single digits, but 16 offloads from Northampton. But 18 turnovers conceded by Gloucester was pretty costly. 17 penalties conceded to 10. The tackling percentage in this game was the lowest by a mile. All the other games are like in the mid-80s or above. Northampton just clocked in 80% and Gloucester were at 78. So maybe that's why the game looked quite entertaining, because maybe the defence was leaving a little bit to be desired. But like I mentioned, Furbank looked really good. 141 run meters, 6 defenders beaten is huge. Really, really, really good. So, yeah. Bit of a interesting game from what limited amounts I've seen. I kind of wish I'd watched that one in full, but there you go. Can't pick them. And they didn't actually show this one here in New Zealand. I'm impressed with the Premiership website, though. You can watch the games in full after the game if you want to. So that's really great news. I have to use a VPN here in New Zealand because it's geo-blocked. But the fact they've got the games on demand on their website is phenomenal. Like New Zealand, that doesn't happen. It's all it's all behind a paywall. But anyway, Northampton are second. They go away to Exeter. So based on the kind of styles that we've seen from the, well, at least from this game or from what I know about Exeter, that could be a really fun watch. I guess Sandy Park's going to be a pretty tough place to go. And Gloucester are in 11th. They are home to Leicester, which will also be a pretty interesting one to see. The next one, Worcester and London Irish. I guess that was a game which was supposed to be two teams which finished kind of at the lower end of the spectrum. Again, I haven't seen this one in full. I've only seen the highlights. Again, it looks like another one that was a bit of a chuck around at times, but Worcester do like a maul from what I've seen, but London Irish are also partial to a wee maul, which is, you can't blame them. It's a really good way of scoring tries. Lewis, Hines, Nanai, Kvesic and Humphreys for Worcester. Humphreys looks to have some wheels. He scored his try. He had a bit of work to do for his one out wide. Nanai, good to see my Blues man get one, but Willie Hines in his first game for Worcester looked pretty impressive, man. He got an intercept, he scored a try, he went close with the intercept, he could have got two, and it was his kind of switch of plays for Nanai's try going blindside, which kind of set that one up as well. So yeah, really seemed to have a pretty good shift actually. Hassel Collins also scored one, Tuisui, and two for Hoskins for London Irish. So like I mentioned, they do like a good maul try, and that's what kind of got them a bonus point. So yeah, a couple of yellow cards, I think, was it, in this one? But yeah, take a bonus point, losing bonus point. It's not a losing bonus point, it's a 4-try bonus point for London Irish. So that means they're 9th, and they're at home to Sale next week. Worcester are in 3rd, going away to Harlequins. But yeah, again, it just seemed like a pretty entertaining one. Quite a few tries, decent crowd. So good result for Worcester. Those are two teams that I've probably literally not seen in the last 2 years. So at some point I'll have to actually sit down and watch them play a full game, because yeah, they brought a bit to that game, which was nice to see. The next one, Sale and Bath. Again, I haven't seen this one in full. Bit of a weird game from what I could gather from the highlights. In that Sale went out to a huge lead, and then Bath kind of ran them down, but it was one kick away from Bath winning it, but they couldn't quite get it done. It was 17-0 to Sale. Van der Merwe and McGuigan got the tries for Sale in that first half. But yeah, they kind of ran them down, did Bath. They actually went in the lead on 74 minutes. It looks like Cipriani had to get replaced. I'm not sure kind of what happened there. They had this young guy, Bailey, who I'm not familiar with, but he seemed to step up pretty well. It is him that missed a tough kick at the death. And I was interested to see some boos for Bailey when he was taking that final kick to win the game. I know there's usually the please respect the kicker thing. Now down here in New Zealand, we boo the kickers like crazy. It's not unexpected for us to boo the kickers, but it was a little surprising to see that from... Is that normal in that neck of the woods? But anyway, they did miss that last kick, but yeah, it seems like a really tight one. Kind of lower on the tries compared to a lot of the other games, but certainly tight in terms of the results. It would have been kind of literally edge of your seat right until that final kick of the game. But man, tough for a 19-year-old guy to miss that last kick, but yeah, you can't blame him for that, man. It was a tough one. And yeah, weird stats. I had a look at the stats. Penalties conceded 14 apiece, pretty high. Bath had less territory but more possession. Underhill is the top guy for run meters with 83. That's unexpected. John O'Ross makes 12 from 12 tackles for Sale. So yeah, tight game. If you guys watched it, do let me know kind of what was going on there. And yeah, Sale are 6th. They're away to London Irish next week. Bath are 7th. And they're home to Newcastle. So yeah, real tight one. And the last one, Newcastle against Harlequins. I did watch this one. Man, people have been talking up Adam Radwan to me, and now I can really legitimately see why. Goodness gracious me, that guy is electric. Really fun to watch. Newcastle tries to Radwan Stevens and Scrader. 2 for Liner for Harlequins, Marchant and Kerr. Yeah, pretty crazy one. I wrote that Newcastle's maul looked dangerous early, and they'll be a bit frustrated because there was one try that Carl Ferns was sure he scored, but the TMO said there was no clear evidence and it was an on-field no try. So with that, the try wasn't given. So given this scoreline, Newcastle may be looking back at that one pretty frustratedly. But yeah, Kerr had an intercept on 8 minutes. Somehow they didn't manage to convert that chance, but Liner got the first try. It was Kerr's pass. It was almost intercepted, but not quite. 7-0. Marchand got one. It was Tommaso Allen with the line break, and then he passed it pretty easily through. 14-0. So they were looking pretty comfortable, Harlequins, but then hit back from Newcastle. Rudd one out wide, as I mentioned. Dude's got wheels, 14 points to 5. Rudd one had a line break on 27 minutes. He goes through the traffic, and he set up Stevens' try. That one, even though Rudd was not the guy who gets the finish, he's like, that's probably his best moment of the game, man. How he goes through the amount of players he did. It was just kick return. They passed it to Rudd one, and he just put his head up and just cut through them like hot knife through butter. That put him really game on, 14 points to 12. But then Liner got a second one. He's pretty sharp out on the wing, isn't he? We saw that last season. Intercept try, though, that was Robinson with the intercept. Really good read. I think it was Danny Kerr's pass to Schrader. Made it 19 points to 17. But then Kerr made up for his intercept throw with a nice little snipe try on 59 minutes. So that put them kind of comfortably in front, 26-17. Newcastle did kick that penalty at the death to get back within the 7 points to make it a bonus point loss. But yeah, that's kind of deserved for them because they were good value for that game. Radwan finishes with 131 run meters, 10 defenders beaten, and 3 clean breaks. Man, I'm looking forward to watching more of him. Tommaso Allen gets man of the match. Couple of try assists for him. Interesting, the commentators kept talking about, like, if Marcus Smith gets called up to England, Tommaso Allen's going to have to run the show. And I'm thinking, do you not think Tommaso Allen's going to get called up by Italy? I didn't understand the logic. I know Garbisi's playing mainly for Italy, but I think Allen will be in the squad. Bizarre. Anyway, it was 9 clean breaks to 5 with Harlequins getting more. But Newcastle managed more run meters, more possession. They are in 8th with a point. They are away to Bath, and Harlequins are 4th, home to Worcester next week. Wasps obviously were on the bye, so we'll see them next week. But yeah, interesting little taste of it for me. Like I said, I watched 3 games and then the rest in highlights. Now the United Rugby Championship, which is the new Pro 14, is kicking off next week as well, this week. They're still not sure whether they're going to broadcast it here in New Zealand. I've inquired with my local broadcasters how I'm going to divide my time between that competition and this one. Assuming I can watch it will be interesting, but I hope to watch at least a game, maybe 2 games, and then kind of go through these recap videos and fingers crossed get some feedback from you guys on what really happened in the games that I've only seen the highlights, because the highlights only really give you a little snippet about what's going on. But yeah, like I mentioned, from the highlights games, those 2 seemed pretty crazy in terms of guys chucking it around and lots of tries. This one seemed like a real nail biter, and yeah, the 3 games that I watched were certainly good value, man. I know people were giving Saracens stick. A lot of Saracens away fans as well at that game, but yeah, it seemed like a bit of an arm wrestle, and I enjoyed watching it. But anyway, you guys let me know your thoughts. Almost 20 minutes. Sorry about the length of it, folks. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the opening round. We'll see how round 2 goes, and yeah, I will talk to you guys again soon. See you later.